Hello, everybody. If you have been here the last little bit, thanks for finishing this journey with us. Excited to be here with you. If you happen to just be joining us for the first time, you're about to get an amazing wrap up from us. And we hope that you'll take the time to go back and watch the previous session. All the replays are available on Crowdcast. I also have a link up here that I'll make a little bit bigger, and the team will post in the chat momentarily. We're posting all the videos on YouTube. For those of you asking about how do I connect and maybe chat with other people, definitely join the Facebook group. You can also go to global.su.org and browse our network of folks in the SU ecosystem that are probably even beyond this summit. We are still running the Be Innovative 6 ideation challenges if you want to go and check those out. And of course, all the resources, links to slides, interesting companies, research, all that good stuff that's been shared over the last couple days is live on our resources page at su.org/COVID-19. So that is that. And a couple things that are coming up for you guys to check out as well that I think would be useful is we're going to host another session specifically around how leaders can navigate chaos in uncertain times. I know a lot of people have been asking about, great, I want to think real big, but what can I do right now? So come and check that session out, su.org/navigate-chaos. We'll also post that link here in the chat, coming up March 26th with some great folks from SU. And then, of course, we've got another virtual conference coming up with our partners at EXO and XPRIZE. Go to that URL, exoworld.live/SU, to sign up and participate. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and we will get into our wrap up. So I am joined by Dr. Tiffany Vora. And I just have to say first, before we even get started, thank you. I think we'll talk about the story behind how this thing got started in the beginning, but it all came down to it. WhatsApp message that I sent to Tiffany, and she said, yeah, let's go for it. So thank you, Tiffany, for saying yes to this. Everybody who's been saying thank you for SU for putting it on. Tiffany kind of gave me that hook that said, hey, let's go run with it. So thank you for that, Tiffany.
Well, thank you for asking the question. I can't say yes if nobody asks the question.
There you go. So Tiffany is an educator, writer, research scientist, and entrepreneur. She got her undergraduate degree in biology and chemistry at NYU and her PhD in the Department of Molecular Biology at Princeton. She previously worked in drug discovery and taught at Stanford University and the American University in Cairo. She's founded 2 startups and is currently faculty and vice chair of medicine and digital biology here at Singularity University. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Adam.
You got it. All right, well, let's get started with a basic question. What's life like for you right now in the Bay Area?
Right, so I live in Silicon Valley, so we are in shelter in place. We are under legal orders to stay at home, to social distance, and to only engage in essential activities. So that means everyone is at home all the time. Schools are closed. My 8-year-old son is home all the time. My husband's campus is closed. He's working with his lab virtually. He's going to be teaching his classes virtually. And there's no travel for any of us, which is not what our lives are like usually. So we're suddenly trying to balance work and life in a way that we've never had to before. So for me personally, I'm self-employed. So my businesses have been very strongly impacted by this epidemic and then also now by this shelter-in-place order. So I'm struggling with financial uncertainty because if I don't work, I don't get paid. So I have a lot of empathy right now for folks who are working in the gig economy because, you know, I'm really lucky. A lot of folks aren't. There are a lot of small businesses, a lot of larger businesses, and a lot of gig workers who are suddenly figuring out that their states of being are very fragile. So what are some things I'm doing right now? I'm investing in my future a lot. So because a lot of my business has gotten disrupted, I've been writing instead of giving talks. I've upped my mentoring of startups and women in STEM, which is something I'm passionate about all the time, but sometimes don't have a lot of time to do. And to be honest, just between you and me and our 20,000 friends, Adam, I've been trying to figure this whole social media thing out. But I heard something that David Bray said 2 days ago that really resonated with me. He said, this is so scary because we can't see biology. And for me, that's interesting because as a biologist, I can see it. I've spent 20 years learning how to see this biology. And so even though right now biology is scaring the world, for me, biology is beautiful. Even viruses, even sickness, even the human body, all of this is still fundamentally beautiful and awe-inspiring to me. So I'm looking for those touch points of awe and inspiration and beauty, and I'll be sharing them on Twitter and Instagram moving forward. So come check me out so that we can stay in contact and do that. And I just talked about seeking positive touch points. That's something that I'm very mindfully doing every day. To be honest, a lot of times I'm thinking about mental health as much as I'm thinking about physical health. I'm not so worried about losing social contact as I am about losing privacy right now. So I'm playing my guitar a lot. I'm finding something fun to teach my son every day. It's usually biology, but not always biology. And those are the things that I'm really excited about doing. And until I know what life is going to be like for the next couple of weeks, I am really drilling down on making today as good as I can. So thank you for making this day for me a good day, getting to be in touch with all of our new friends.
Absolutely. You've got it. We appreciate you being here for sure. Let's talk about, with everything that's been going on, what are some of the things that have positively surprised you the most?
So I think the thing that has surprised me the most in a good way is how awesome science and medicine have been. So just to give you a sense of this, the DNA sequence, the genome sequence for the first SARS-2, the COVID-2 virus, this virus we're talking about, came out within days to weeks. Now, I'm not that old, but back in my day, you could get your PhD in 6 years from sequencing something. So the fact that someone is able to do this within days, if not weeks, is just astonishing to me. The technology is fantastic, the speed is fantastic, the computation, it's amazing. And scientists around the world and publishers are stepping up to make this information as accessible as possible, as fast as possible. I also was really excited by how fast some of these structural information came in, right? If we're gonna fight this disease with therapies, in biology, structure is function. So if you want to mess up the function of the virus, you need to know what the structure is. And again, I know folks who spent their entire PhD work just solving the structure of a protein. And now suddenly we've got these structures for a brand new to us virus. So I was absolutely stunned by that. And looking at how drugs and vaccines are being very quickly repurposed, pulled off the shelf, looking for off-label uses, I think that's astonishing. And I'm also really stunned by how nimble the collaborations are between small companies, massive corporations, governments, and NGOs. So I remember Julia Cheek at the end of day one was talking about that amazing funding opportunity they put together that she wasn't even sure was going to work, but sure enough, it did. And so I believe in science. I believe in scientists as a community. I believe in the medical community, but actually getting to watch it unfold in real time, how people are rising to this challenge and helping to make the world a better place, maybe not today, but 6 months from now, it's just astonishing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's also one of those things where it's so hard, and we've talked about this a bunch throughout the last couple of days, is like, how do you hold that with the reality that people are getting very sick and they're dying and there's all this stuff happening, and then also being able to appreciate those good things. So let's flip it a little bit. What have you been surprised by in a not so good way when it comes to this pandemic?
So the thing that really surprised me was how quickly the situation moved from being what I would consider to be rooted in biology and medicine and data into social effects, panic, fake news, economic effects. I was surprised by that. I would not have been able to predict that people would react so strongly at being told, just wash your hands, that's all we've got. To me, I'm thrilled by soap and water. I think it's amazing. You give me something simple to do, I'm happy to do it. But that is not what we saw across societies, across parts of society. People wanted more. And for me, I think a lot of that comes down to issues of trust. This is a touch point you've heard over and over again in the last 3 days. Trust matters. And in fact, I think that in the coming years, Trust is going to be the single most important commodity that a person, a business, or a government can have. And what we're seeing right now is what happens when trust fails. When you don't trust your government, when you can't trust the internet, when you're turning to information on Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever it is, instead of going to the WHO or the CDC or the FDA. I was not really prepared for that, even though I've been coming to realize in recent months just how important trust is. So when I think about the steps we need to move forward into the future, trust in our information, trust in our medical system, and trust in our systems really is what it comes down to. Our democratic systems, our educational systems, our economic systems. It's all connected now. I remember the other day, Jamie Metzel said that it's the systems here that really matter, right? We can agree that the effects that this disease are having on individuals are absolutely tragic. But what really scares me, what makes me want to stay up at night, is wondering what's going to happen to our systems, our medical system, our governance, our education, our economics. Because the world is a different place now. It's not that the viruses are different. It's that the world is different and people are connected in different ways and systems are interconnected in a way that leads to fragility rather than robustness, right? If one part of the network goes down, potentially the shocks reverberate through the entire global network. And so I am no longer able as a scientist to disentangle the data, the medical information from what's going on right outside my door today while we're in lockdown. And I think that's a really important learning moment for me.
I want to touch on that real quick, the point that you made about the underlying systems. Are there cases where you think that system failure could be a good thing? Where it would actually give us a chance to, build a different system?
So I got an interesting text from a friend the other day who we were talking about some scary numbers we were looking at. And she said something like, I'm kind of hoping this will take down capitalism. Wink, wink. And I was like, that is a really interesting way of putting it. And in fact, what I think this is an interesting forcing function that's going to force us to reevaluate a whole slew of systems. Capitalism is just one of them. It's not the only one that I think should be re-examined. But remember, the zeitgeist has been moving in that direction anyway, right? We had Pope Francis, just as one example of someone who's been calling out whether the system that we built, capitalist system, is the best possible system, is a system that will lead to the best possible future. And so what I see here is a sharpening and a further weighting of conversations that we've been having that are very easy to ignore. I am not a fan of completely burning things to the ground and then starting over. That makes me a bit nervous. If you are a fan of what I think of as a hard reset, there was a wonderful book that came out a few years ago called Year Zero, and it talks about 1945. So I've heard several speakers in our summit talk about the post-World War II rebuilding era, this recalculation era, a total recalibration of what our values were as individuals, as societies. We might be in a moment like that right now. And while that is scary, that is fundamentally empowering. We are being given another chance here to do things different, to take a hard look at our systems and how they're connected, and to make tough decisions that we wouldn't have made even 6 months ago because life was easier then for most of us. So I think there's something to be said here. And, I'm an experimentalist. My job is to poke at things. This is a pretty strong poke, but I'm interested to see what we can learn from it. That's what's really interesting here. What can we learn? What can we do moving forward?
I think that's a good segue. You pretty much read the next question that I have written down here. You've given us a couple things, but what are some of the other things that we can learn from this pandemic and use moving forwards?
Yeah, so I've noticed, for example, that from listening to a lot of our speakers, is that this COVID-19 crisis is accelerating trends that have already been happening, but can be easy to dismiss, right? So whether we're talking about the rise of virtual work, virtual interactions, whether we're talking about the fragility and importance of our connections, of our infrastructure, our societies, human health, whether we're talking about AI, whether we're talking about complexity, COVID-19 is forcing us to a place where we have to actually confront those trends that we've been happy ignoring. And I wanted to share a wonderful quote with you that I've been coming back to quite often. It was in the March-April MIT Tech Review Futurism issue, which is a wonderful issue. I highly recommend you pick it up. And this is a quote from a futurist named Annalisa Kier. And she wrote, "When it comes to the future, you have two choices. You can sit back and think, it's not happening to me, and build a great big wall to keep out all the bad news. Or you can build windmills and harness the winds of change." We are in a moment right now where this idea of building walls and putting our hands over our ears and saying, la, 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 it's not happening to us, that's over. We cannot do that anymore. And so for me, the other choice is harnessing the winds of change by building windmills. And Adam, you alluded to this before when you were talking about how this summit came together. This summit came together from a simple question that Adam WhatsApped me. And we got a variety of collaborators to come together and just come up with a bunch of ideas. How can we do this digitally? How can we demonetize this, right? Make it free. How can we decentralize it so that we're crowdsourcing volunteer contributions from these, 32 experts that have been contributing to this virtual summit?
Yeah.
So just to let you guys see behind the curtain, none of us are being paid to be here. This is something that we did because we are passionate about taking control of this moment and using it to make the world better. So this was one way that Singularity University and a whole bunch of partners are harnessing the winds of change. And I think that's a really exciting moment, and we can see more and more of this happens if you have the courage to take the hard look, to poke, and to do the experiment. So that's one big takeaway.
Yeah, I love that perspective. And I think that it's also going to be, we're going to have just an increasing number of these moments where we can no longer refuse to confront what's right in front of us. And one thing that got talked about a little bit today is what's going to happen when more remote places or less advanced places, I don't know what the right word is for it, come in contact with coronavirus if they haven't already. Like, what happens through Africa and rural India and more of Asia? Like, what do we do in those? Like, we're going to learn so many new things and have to come to the aid of folks that we maybe never would have thought of collaborating with before. It's going to be something that I frankly can't even fathom yet.
Well, I think there's a lot of interesting potential there, right? We talk a lot about developing economies or developing societies being able to leapfrog the steps that other societies took first in order to get to perhaps a cheaper, a faster, a simpler, a more robust, a more democratized solution. And it's possible here that this is what we're going to see happen. The virtual connections, if this is what is really going to happen in the future, really change the balance of power, because it doesn't matter where you are in order to do this innovation or in order to deploy these things. The playing field will be increasingly leveled, is my hope. So I also just want to click on something you said. You said, well, we have to come to the aid of. My question is, how do we empower everyone to solve the problems themselves instead of waiting for help to show up? So I think there's some really exciting potential here to flip the narrative around power, around ownership, around agency. Agency is so important to me because there are a lot of solutions out there. How do we get it so that the best ones actually have a fighting chance to make a difference?
I definitely want to come back to that when we get closer to wrapping up. But for now, let's go and talk about the sessions at the summit so far. What were some of your major takeaways from the ones you were able to catch?
So one of my major takeaways is that COVID-19 is really demonstrating that trust and empathy are necessary for transforming technology into solutions. We heard that a few times today. Just a few hours ago, Christina from Australia was sharing this goal of putting the human together with the technological. And for me, that is a bridge to trust, just like I think that things like virtual reality are a bridge to empathy. It's no longer okay to say something is happening over there, it doesn't matter to me. We said that during during refugee crises. We've said that during wars and droughts and famines. But now there's no more over there. There's no more you, not me. We're all in this together. David Bray, a couple of days ago, said, we will get through this only because we work together as a planet. And I feel like I couldn't say that better myself. Have I been seeing a hashtag better together? Is that the hashtag people are using?
I hope it is.
I hope it is too. And I think that's really important. This is a moment that has both exposed breaches of trust, but are making the potential to build trust between individuals, among organizations, between individuals and their governments or their NGOs, and really to say it's not just about whether my government trusts your government, but whether I trust you. And if the answer to that is yes, then we really have a chance to build something special here. Trust is going to be the currency of the future, and no trust, no transformation. And transformation is what I'm seeking here.
I'm writing that down because I liked it so much. Trust is the currency of the future.
That's right. Not data, trust. So
what?
I know. You'll have to scrub that before you post this video, but it's all about trust. And there's another big piece here that I want to share, which is something that I've actually been thinking about a lot since December, when I started hearing about this new virus. One way of looking at this terrible crisis is that this is a dress rehearsal for future catastrophes. Not just future pandemics, but future catastrophes of any kind, including ones that are going to come from climate change. So climate change, again, is one of these places where we've been really good at building walls and saying it's not happening to me, or it's happening over there and it's not my problem. And with the youth climate movement we've seen in the last year and some various other eye-opening experiences, this is the first catastrophe that we are facing, the first global catastrophe from what I'm hoping is a real awakening. So COVID reminds us, like I said, that while the effects on individuals can be tragic, they can be inconvenient, they can be a lot of things, it's the severe shock to systems that we are going to have to deal with, not as individuals, but as people and as a species. And again, take a look at what Jamie Metzl was talking about the other day. It's really, really very important. So when I look at how we're responding to this, the first response wasn't great. We didn't get this as a hole-in-one. So again, how do we learn from this dress rehearsal so that we are ready to detect and to respond appropriately and inclusively to the next pandemic, or to the next time, or the first time a major metropolis burns to the ground because of wildfires, right? My Australian friends, that's got to be top of mind. California, we had ash falling on our cities and our schools closed because of the wildfires close by. Or what about when the first major disruption to the global food chain happens? These things are coming at us because of climate change. We've already missed our opportunity to shut the whole thing down. Now it's about flattening the curve. So how are we going to flatten these other curves? How are we going to be prepared? How do we get from today to the tomorrow that I'm picturing? And we're going to come back to that. That's a really useful thing to think about. How do we go from today to tomorrow to 30 years from now? We have a chance here to get it a bit righter and to set ourselves up for the next one. And I think that's the most exciting thing that we could possibly be doing right now. Galvanizing innovation, galvanizing inclusion, galvanizing creativity and trust.
And just to be clear, that's not saying that we're just going to move on from what we're in the middle of. We still have to deal with that, but it's how do we harness the energy or the windmills, if you will, from what you mentioned earlier, so that we can continue this trend and this collaboration and not go back to where we have been. So let's go there. Can we do it? What can we do?
So I just want to click on the windmill analogy one more time, because it's an interesting analogy, right? When a windmill is moving, it's grinding some grains at the bottom to make bread for whoever it is who's dropped off the grain that day. But when the grain leaves, the windmill still stands and it's ready to do the next task. So when we're building windmills here, we're not just building solutions. We're not just baking individual loaves of bread. We're trying to build new ecosystems, new frameworks, new ways of thinking, so that when the next load of grain that needs to be ground shows up, when the next catastrophe shows up, the windmill's already there. We're not building new windmills every time. So that just came to me, but I think it's an important point.
Yeah, I like that.
So how do we harness the energy from this crisis to make the world a better place? Because I think that's why we're all here together today and why we've come together for the last 3 days. And my answer to that is that we use this opportunity to build our own vision of what we want the future to be. Not tomorrow, not in a week, not in 6 months. But I want you all to join me for just a moment in really taking time to think about what your future should look like. So close your eyes. I can't see all of you, so I'm going to have to trust that you're doing it. But please close your eyes and picture your life 30 years from now. 2050, it's a long way out. What do you see? Are you in a house? Are you in a sustainable village like James Ehrlich talked to you about? Are you in a spaceship? Are you on Mars? Who are you with? Are you with your family? Are you by yourself? Are you with a company or a group? Can you touch them? Do you really need to touch them to feel connected to them? How does your body feel? Do you feel healthy? Do you feel strong? Do you have extra parts in it? How does the body 30 years from now feel? What does the world around you smell like or taste like or feel like? And now here are my most important questions for you while your eyes still shut and you're still in 2030. Are you happy? Are you energized? Are you safe? What have you built with your life to bring you to this point? I'm going to count to 10 quietly so you can just have some silence to think about those things. Okay, open your eyes. Adam, tell me about just one thing that you saw.
Well, even before you said it, I was definitely in a regen village, because those places look absolutely amazing. But yeah, I focus first on people, and wanting to be in the environment. And I smelled the smell that I always think of in Seattle after the rain there. It's just always smells and feels so fresh, and being in the presence of people that you care about. And that was enough to just make me feel really good.
That's great. I know for me, I picture things like clean air, fresh food. I picture being with my son. I picture oceans that actually have coral in them and that have fish in them. I picture basically all the things that make me happy being vibrant and diverse and secure. Those are some of the things that I picture. So now I'm going to ask you all a question, and this is something we're going to experiment together now, and we're going to try to do this together. So I'm going to ask you a question, and to answer it, I want you to write a very, very short science fiction story. That's your answer to my question. I'm going to set a timer to give you time to think, and when you're ready, you're going to post your little science fiction story, because we're picturing the future, so it's fiction, here in the chat. And also, I want you to go onto Twitter and use these hashtags. You're going to use my 2020 lesson. And then we've also got our summit hashtag, COVID-19 SU Summit. So here is the question that you're going to answer. Put yourself into the mindset of future you 30 years from now. Here's my question. What did you learn in 2020 that changed your future? It could be about COVID. It could be about anything we've talked about in the last 3 days. But what did you learn in 2020 that changed your future? So what I'd love for you to do is write a little story that shows me not only what you learned, but how that made a difference in your life. So I'll tweet along with you guys. But maybe it could be something like, never leave home without my haptic gloves. Thanks, coronavirus. That way, no matter where I am or how distant I am from my family, I can always touch them. Okay, so that was a simple example. So I am going to set our timer for 1 minute. Get on Twitter, get in the chat, start sharing your future.
Yeah, and like Tiffany said, if you don't have Twitter, share it here in the chat. That definitely counts.
Okay. Okay, I hope everybody's tweeting. Excellent. All right, so this exercise doesn't have to stop here. That's what's so brilliant about using future visioning and even things like 280 character science fiction. When you're quiet, when you're showering, when you're out for a run, when you're doing whatever it is you're going to do with social distancing, always have that voice empowered in your head to be thinking about your best possible future, because the moment for building that is now. And I want to just share one more quote with you guys, which is from one of my heroes. So this is Cristiana Figueres. She's from Costa Rica. She was the former executive secretary of the UN Convention on Climate Change. And here's something that she wrote just a couple of months ago. She wrote, "If you do not control the complex landscape of a challenge, and you rarely do, the most powerful thing you can do is to change how you behave in that landscape, using yourself as a catalyst for change." So if there's one thing that I want you to walk away with today, it's that you are a catalyst for change. Now, the word catalyst is a really interesting one. So I'm a scientist, so let's use the scientific definition of the word catalyst. A catalyst is something that accelerates a chemical change without itself being consumed. So here's what I have to say for you. This is my call to action for you. What is your role as a catalyst? I refuse to be consumed. I refuse to be consumed by this virus. I refuse to be consumed by uncertainty. I refuse to be consumed by fear. Instead, I want to catalyze connection. I want to catalyze the future. What does our new future look like? What is our resilient future? What is our unfragile future? And what is our inclusive future? That's me. I refuse to be consumed. How about you, Adam?
Oh, man. I want to be a catalyst, or I am a catalyst for possibility. And I want to be able to help everybody set aside those fears and unnecessary concerns and anything that's holding them back, so they can go after whatever possibility they see in their future, however big or small it is for them.
That is fantastic. Do we have folks, put yours in the chat. What is your resolution? Remember, we've talked about mindfulness and setting an intention and sending it out into the universe, but using our digital tools, you can send it out into the Twitterverse or into the chatverse. This is your chance to set your intention for the future, for today, for tomorrow, and for 20, 30 years from now. So thank you so much to Singularity for making the space for us to do this. I feel like that's what we're all about as a global community. And I just want to see us change this wind into a windmill.
Thank you so much for being here, Tiffany. We really appreciate it. I will get us closed out, but I couldn't have asked anybody better to help be here tonight with me. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Stay strong, stay healthy, wash your hands.
All right, see you, Tiffany.
Bye.
All right, everyone. That just about does it. And if you're still around, I wanted to take a couple extra minutes here to say some thanks. But I think that the reminder, the thread through all of this for sure has been like, yes, the technology, yes, the science, yes, the possibility, and the realness of the challenge that we're facing today. But we're all in this together. And I just wanted to take a moment for all of us who are still here to do what Ellie showed us, and we're going to take a second, and wherever you're at, feel the ground. If you're standing up, put your feet on it. If you're sitting, put your feet on the ground. And let's all take one big deep breath together to feel connected and grounded. You can leave your eyes open or closed, whatever feels right. And after you take that breath, take one more moment and think about something that you're grateful for right now. And if you want, you can share it in the chat. You can say it privately to yourself. But I think in moments like this, we all need to take time to be grateful for what we do have, so that then we can go and step out and really support those around us, support ourselves, and do the amazing things that I know you all showed up because you're capable of doing. And so some things that I'm incredibly grateful for is the team that really helped to pull this off. As I said earlier, tremendous thank you to Tiffany, who answered my WhatsApp at some ungodly hour, I think on a Saturday, with this idea to put on the summit. And when I felt so compelled that Singularity University had to play a part with what's going on, to Christina, who leads all things faculty here at Singularity and was so gracious in providing her time to be able to activate our faculty network. To Karen at SU, who really said yes and was like, yep, go and run with it, whatever it's going to take, cleared the path. The team that's been here from the very beginning, Venus, Cody, Jody, I couldn't have done it without you guys to really pull this together and make it happen. Emily, January, Ingrid, Chanot, Jesse, Kenny, Tyler, Starina, Suzanne, Ryan, and probably so many more people that have been helping out behind the scenes that I just haven't even seen yet. It's been really amazing to see what this company is capable in times like these. And to everybody else who is here, I'm so beyond grateful that you've given us your time and your attention. I hope that you've found tremendous value in this, and that you can take this back to the people and the communities that you're a part of, that you love and that you want to make a difference in, so that we can get through this pandemic and then put up those windmills, as Tiffany mentioned, to be able to get us through anything else that might come afterwards. You leave here now with some tools. We certainly all have the technology out in the world today, and you now have a tremendous network, hopefully with some folks that you may have not had before, to go and create that huge change out in the world and to positively impact the billions of people on this planet that really need it to solve these global challenges. So remember, we're in it together, so let's do it together. First, take care of yourself, stay healthy, stay safe, and we are here at Singularity University whenever you're ready. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.